says a Pantheon is supposed to be a good trade with Trundle. All right, even if we're just going to ignore that too, I'm still like, why did we give Quid Yone instead of just banning out, like, they banned Annie instead of Yone?
For the clip, we had to get...
It was a good clip.
We wanted
it was
to get
a really
that clip.
good clip.
Hello and welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia Season 9, Episode 31. We are here to discuss Bwipo, a big new patch, and the South teams are coming to the North, and I'm pretty sure we're going to win again.
LTA Playoffs are coming up, but Bwipo definitely made some really stupid comments, some really sexist comments recently that we kind of have to address first. For me, it's just like was really disappointing to see because as much as like there's obviously a wide variety of opinions on this. Some people are saying like, oh, you know, it's obvious that these are dumb. But then there's people on the other side that actually are believing this stuff. And it's this kind of stuff that I think is really damaging to women across a lot of fields. In particular, I'll just focus on esports because I have heard a number of examples. And I even saw coaches, you know, tweeting about these kind of things after where it's like, in a bunch of different esports, when women are trying to get onto these teams, it only takes one or two people who think this way, who have these stupid opinions, to kill their chance of getting on a team, right? And it just makes it so much more difficult for people to actually get these opportunities, for women to get these opportunities when someone is like, yeah, they can't compete when they're on their periods, probably shouldn't get them. If someone actually thinks that, then you could lose your opportunity from something that stupid. Or, you know, this other garbage that you would hear about where it's like, they're going to be a distraction. They'll be flirting with the boys or they'll be doing this. Or like just all these dumbass takes and opinions really do hurt the opportunities, which are already very limited for women in this space. So to me, it was really, really disappointing to see that Bwipo, someone who is one of the kind of the big voices in the scene, just making such a stupid statement like this. And I think it really just unfortunately kind of like keeps that cycle going and reinforces some people who already have that opinion, you know, and that's why it is damaging.
Yeah, the ignorance is really sad. I was glad to see that Shocks, was still she was still awake when it came out, and so she was able to put out a response before, you know, she went to bed. But yeah, and she's talking about how it's not even, doesn't even stop like with this instance, right? Because that's the type of rhetoric and type of ideology that then people use to hold women back in other fields as well. Mm-hmm. And so like that's why it's just actually dangerous.
Yeah, I mean it's basically just like textbook sexism with any kind of like generalization like that discriminates people. It's really damaging because, you know, say you're a guy and you're playing League and you have a really bad weekend or something. No one's sitting there being like, damn, like Bwipo got gapped by Fudge so hard this week, he's probably on his period. And then like if you said that, it would obviously be wrong because he's a guy, right? But if a girl is in the exact same situation, now you have people who are like listening to Bwipo being like, oh yeah, maybe that is the case. Maybe like girls shouldn't be competing, and it's just completely stupid.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those statements that just like can actually cause so much more damage than surface level because it just puts that idea into people's heads, and now all of a sudden it's just like no matter what you do, people start analyzing it differently, looking at it through this lens that's just completely unfair. And it's just like really, really ridiculously stupid of him to say that.
I mean, also let's be honest. Just like young gamers are some of the most like emotionally unstable people a lot of the times. So it's like the idea that you can't compete, you know, because of being on a period compared to, you know, like men who can be just as ridiculous and emotional and whatever. So, I mean, I just think it's really sad to see these kind of, you know, biases and things just continue to be spread. So, hopefully Bwipo can learn from it and be introspective, and hopefully he can become I don't know, someone who can kind of like represent the topic better in the future. FlyQuest did announce a punishment. He is going to miss the first series in LTA playoffs, so he's not going to be playing for that. They will be using Gatkos instead. And then I believe the second part of it was that they were going to be donating his portion of the prize money to causes for women in gaming. So that is going to be the fallout on the FlyQuest side.
Yeah, I mean, Dhokla's been tweeting about it as well because he had the previous argument, and so now Dhokla's sitting there like, well, guess my enemy just blew himself up with all this stuff too. I mean, that was going to be our topic actually coming into this episode. We were going to talk about all the Dhokla stuff, but then Bwipo just dropped the extra. And made it kind of crazy. So, I mean, I guess now thinking back about like the fist bump drama and stuff, I'm like, it's so small.
Well, did you see his tweet? Dhokla had a bunch of like banger tweets about it. I mean, my whole social media, like since the incident, has just been everyone just shitting on Bwipo, which I guess that's kind of like the silver lining is at least it's like everyone realizes like how dumb it was of him to do that. But yeah, Dhokla basically had a tweet that was like, the domino thing where it's like, the first domino is like C9 at K barbecue and then like beefing with Big Dokes and then, just like going full on sexist. So it's like, I think Dhokla's definitely the big winner here because he I think his last tweet about the whole like him versus Bwipo beef was just like, don't argue with an idiot. Like outsiders might not be able to tell the difference. Or
what's
whatever.
really funny is that was one of his first tweets way back at the beginning. And I was going to bring that one in, the Mark Twain quote that you're saying, never argue with an idiot because onlookers won't be able to tell the difference. And it just became more and more true as the week went on.
Yeah, I mean, the Dhokla stuff is obviously just like a totally different category, right? They're beefing because of comments that Bwipo made on his stream about Dhokla and his career, and Dhokla really took exception to it, which is fair enough. And my opinion on that stuff was more that it's like Bwipo has a right to his opinion, and he can think that Dhokla's had a bad career or whatever. And Dhokla also has the right to be mad about that and not want to fist bump him and not like the guy over it. Like, I feel like that is regardless of which side you're on and whether you agree with Bwipo or not, I have no issue with that, right? Like, there can be a rivalry in sports, and I think that actually made it that much more exciting. I thought it kind of like added some tension to the top lane and stuff, and seeing them go at it, and Dhokla clearly like really wants to prove him wrong and be able to find those opportunities to take down Bwipo and kind of like show him that he's wrong, right? So I thought that kind of was like fun as far as watching from a fan perspective. The heat that it added to the matchup, and I had no problem with Dhokla not going for the fist bump and stuff. The thing that's always funny with that though is I always wonder how many people are watching without having any context, because the downside of it for Dhokla is if you watch without having any context, you're just like, wow, this guy's a dick. Like, he just won't fist bump that other guy, and you don't really know anything about it.
Yeah, that's why at the beginning of the day, I did pre-match interviews, and I interviewed Dhokla, and I asked him directly about it. Mm-hmm. So there was that, but of course, lots of people don't watch the entire show, and then they'll just tune in, and it's like the end of the game or whatever, and so they only see that part. But I mean, I actually was fully on Team Dhokla for that already, because it's not just like, oh, he's calling him bad and stuff. If you also think about where Dhokla was, where you're kicking someone when they're down, the time that they actually had the interaction where he was talking about this, Dhokla was teamless. Like, he was trying to get back on another team. And so, you're like really hurting his chances of like getting a job. And so then you're like, you're messing with his livelihood. So I was like, yeah, I'll be pissed too. I'm like, I probably would not be fist bumping him, and I would do similar.
Yeah, I think it kind of reminds me of the conversation we had with the Palafox versus Caster beef, where I think I'm all for like polarizing personalities and like shit talking and whatnot. I think in this case, it was probably too far from Bwipo, like what he said about Dhokla, because I think he made it really personal and he's kind of punching down in the sense that like Dhokla's not really someone who beefs with people. Like he's actually one of the nicest people, I feel like, in the LTA. So I think it's really weird where Bwipo coming from being like, you know, one of the best top laners for a while now, just saying that and making it so like about his entire career, basically just saying like, yeah, this guy's like a horrible player, like no one should sign him kind of deal. Yeah, I think that was too far. So I kind of get why Dhokla was upset about it, and like that seems pretty justified. So it would have been even sweeter if they managed to get the win. But yeah, I don't know. I think Dhokla's responses were completely valid.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the reality is almost everyone is on the Dhokla side of it, right? You know, I think it's hard not to want to cheer for the underdog, and like you said, it did feel like someone kind of punching down, you know, Bwipo on the best team in the league and, you know, in a really good spot, talking about this person that wasn't even on a pro team at the time. Obviously, you know, it just doesn't feel good, right? And Dhokla, I think that's part of what makes the story really cool is you kind of feel like you're cheering for the comeback kid, right? Like you're cheering for the underdog. And his run with 100 Thieves, I thought, was made so much more exciting, you know, as a result of how improbable it seemed that it would be, right? This team started 1-6, and then they're able to make it all the way to finals in the conference playoffs, and it was just like such a massive turnaround from 100 Thieves that I thought it made them super fun to watch because it did feel so improbable, right? The start seemed so bad. We had Palafox giving interviews, and a lot of people I was talking to all were saying 100 Thieves is the worst team in the league. Like they are just point blank period. They're worse than DSG. They're worse than Dignitas. Like this is the worst team. And so the turnaround that they had, I think, was really, really cool. And it was fun seeing you know, them really kind of like find an identity for themselves again. And it felt like they had, you know, they went fully back to quit on melee mids and trying to play this aggressive style and trying to scrap. And everyone was just kind of playing better individually too. So it was really, really cool. I mean, we had our Super Week, obviously. So 100 Thieves, they almost ran the gauntlet. They didn't win in the finals, but they played back-to-back days. And it was quite exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely one of those people who at the beginning of this year was saying like, or not this year, this split, I was being like, you know, what happened to 100 Thieves? They genuinely looked so unbelievably bad. So, I mean, it's a great look for Dhokla. I think his like prospects for getting a team next year, because obviously 100 Thieves is going to be leaving the league, should be pretty good if that's what he wants to do. Because being able to just come in and turn a team that looks 100% dysfunctional, like they did not know macro whatsoever. They were just perma grouping, getting caught, losing games, looking like bronze out there. And now I don't know what happened, but they looked so much better. Like they were actually playing like a top team. They were individually performing really well. Yeah, I don't know. That it's so rare to see a turnaround like that. Like I had completely written them off.
Yeah, I really hope that all of these players get to stick around in the league when 100 Thieves leave. I think we talked about it on air also, but like even the River one where there's been so much talk about him, this being his last year and having to go do military service. His Sniper, I think, and the teammates were the ones that like first broke that story, and haven't had a full 100% from River that he is definitely leaving. So until I hear 100% that River is also leaving, I also am holding out hope that River will be able to stay.
Until Santa himself tells me he's not real, I'm not believing it.
Until he's out of here, I'm hoping that he can stick around too.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty exciting. Obviously, they took down Cloud9, which was the one I think more people were unsure about. I predicted that they would win all those two series. I definitely didn't think that they were going to win against FlyQuest, which didn't end up happening. But Cloud9 was obviously the most contentious. That was, I think, before most people were kind of like aboard the train. But I had just felt like Cloud9 had been struggling, and this team looked like they were on fire. So I thought they could do it. And that is the one that I think really kind of impressed a lot of people. And when you talk about auditions for next year for these players, I think that's the series that will have sold these players to a lot of teams, right? I think Quid is going to be probably like the hottest prospect that is available in the offseason when I think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he is really, really good. He was back to kind of like his old style of playing some of the best league. Definitely looking like one of the best mid laners in the league, if not the best like current form mid laner in the league. So I think he is just going to be really sought after by a lot of teams, and hopefully everyone on 100 Thieves, like you said, does get a shot. But we have no idea really. We don't know who's coming in. We don't know if they're going to try to just like sign all the 100 Thieves players and just like continue that roster since they did well, or if they're going to want to try to do their whole own thing and make a new full roster. We just don't really know what's going to happen. So it's pretty up in the air. But the finals also was worth talking about. I mean, Shopify, the 100 Thieves Shopify series wasn't very close. That was a sweep, which I think was kind of like a disappointing end for Shopify. But FlyQuest 100 Thieves was actually a lot more competitive than I thought it would be. Even after they beat Shopify and C9, I was still honestly thinking FlyQuest would probably stomp them, because FlyQuest to me has just looked so far and away the best team in the league. But it was actually a really competitive series for the first two games. Last two games obviously were much more one-sided, but like game one to me actually looked so winnable for 100 Thieves. And it felt like they actually should have been able to take that one down. But it was like, then they win in game two, and those first two made the series, I think, really, really exciting.
Yeah, I think those first two games were like some of the best league we've seen in A for a while. That's kind of what you hope for when you see two top teams play against each other, where it's like back and forth, both teams making good plays, and then it just comes down to, I think in this game, it kind of turned around when Bwipo got the solo kill on Dhokla in game one. Like when he just sort of walked behind him as Ambessa and took him out. He did have his team on the way, and then like 100 Thieves rushed Baron. So it just felt like a lot of really good back and forth between the two teams, whereas like, one team will make a good play and then there's a good response from the other side. So I was hoping for like a really, really close series, and then 100 Thieves kind of ran out of gas after game two. Game three and four, they had some suspicious drafts, and then the one that really I could not wrap my head around was
the game three dive. Yeah,
the swap even before the dive made no sense to me whatsoever. I even had to go back and look at it to try to be like, why would they do that? So they're playing Jhin Karma bot, and they're doing really well in lane against Lucian Braum. Like they've got push, they have a lot of pressure, and then Dokla's Jax against Aatrox. And so you would think that FlyQuest is a team that's trying to swap out of these lanes, right? Anytime you have like a melee against range support, you want to swap because, you're just not able to farm comfortably. But 100 Thieves were the ones who initiated the swap, and then so like
Dhokla got so screwed by the swap.
It was the worst ever. So I was trying to understand like, why would you do this, right? Because when I've talked to pro players, like they usually list a lot of reasons for swaps. Sometimes you do it like. Sometimes it can help your top laner. The bot lane builds a big wave for you, and then they swap into it and catch it. And so it looked like, I think first of all, I wouldn't have swapped, but it looked like maybe Dhokla didn't get the memo they were swapping right away, because what happened was their bot lane crashed like a 3-minute wave or something, like 3:30 around there. It was like the first cannon. They crashed the first cannon, and then they recalled and went top. And that was when Dhokla got ganked and survived it. And then he should have probably just based in and went bot to catch the big wave, but he didn't. He stayed around, blew Bwipo's flash, which was like, this was all good laning if you're not about to swap, right? Mm-hmm. So then they had to swap. River went for like I think he tried to get a kill onto Busio bottom, which kind of broke the freeze. So like they were going to have a freeze bottom. Dhokla gets there a little bit late, and then instead of the wave freezing, it starts slow pushing out. And at that point, it's kind of doomed for you, right?
Yeah,
it's
Dhokla couldn't even breathe.
Yeah, you're up against Lucian Braum, which you can't really 1v2 against. Like they're just too strong. They're gonna kill you. So he's just sitting there getting froze on, and then biggest disaster ever top lane. They go for the dive onto Aatrox, who has no flash.
Trolled that whole thing so bad.
Yeah, he takes tower aggro early, flashes late, trying to flash out of the Aatrox chain, but it was like that thing where during the last fraction of it, even if you get out of it, you still get snap back. So he flashes out and then gets pulled back under turret.
Well, even before that, he walked through the tower before the minions were even there.
Yeah,
and he took
crazy.
2 tower shots and lost his heal and his shield, and then they started the dive after that. So I mean that dive, as soon as that dive goes bad, if you're Dhokla in that situation,
dude, especially
you just want out. It's like get me out.
And with the stakes of the game too, it's like, okay, I'm playing up against this like bully who's like smack talking my entire career, and now I'm getting ganked, and I solo blew his flash, and like Jax versus Aatrox is a matchup that. Jax can win. Like sometimes champions like Jax and Camille are viewed as counters to Aatrox because you know Aatrox isn't that good if you can just jump on him and like all in him. Yeah. But if you lose out on the opportunity to like actually get an advantage early on, and Aatrox is able to comfortably get like level 9 and start getting some of his items, then it gets hard because he just spams Q at you. And so Dhokla basically is like, you get the advantage, you swap into a frozen cursed lane state, and your bot lane graciously gives the flashless top laner a solo kill, and you're just sitting there. It's just like, dude, what is happening? This is like some nightmare situation. Yeah. So, yeah, if I was Dhokla, I probably would have checked out of this one hard when I saw that.
This was Ayla's worst game of the year, at least. Like, this was so bad, and the previous games that he had played, he was actually pretty good. So that's why I was like, oh my goodness, like. This was horrible from him. And then when you end up with this comp after not winning early and like throwing away all of these like small leads that you got, then you're sitting there and you're running only a Jax Counter-Strike and a Karma Tether as like CC, maybe a Jhin W. And you're just behind on all fronts. You can't team fight. Your split push isn't even strong either. And you're just like, all right, well, that game is cooked. Support diff, just go next.
Quid had a lot of gold, at least. Like, they were just kind of having him in the side lane the whole time. And clearly they were like, please, Quid, like, carry us, like, get some.
But how do you actually win a game? Even if you have gold on Rise in this situation?
Of course.
Yeah, I think this draft was terrible. Even when I saw it, like the swap was horrible, but I feel like even if they didn't do the swap, this game was just completely lost from draft. It was like you said, very little CC, but also you have no front line. And I don't know the last time I've seen a frontline-less comp win against like Sedge Braum. Like Sedge Braum is just the playoff staple combo. Maybe T1 can pull it off, but most teams are not T1. And then
and they blinded Rise with Cassio open against Quad.
That's either
Quad said on pros they played this matchup in scrims and Quid solo killed him. So he's like, maybe he got baited because of that. Because they were maybe thinking about that. But like, I was very surprised because Cassio gets banned against Quad all the time. Rise, I think he even said on pros that it's his favorite matchup for Cassio, right? Like, this is kind of like that classic spot to bring out Cassio, even when it's weak. And Quad is like the Cassio master. And so that was kind of crazy. And I mean, he pulled off a really nice 1v2 in a side lane. I agree, the draft was pretty cooked, but you knew the game was super cooked after the swap and the dive goes bad.
That's next level scrim strategies. You pick a matchup and you let your opponent solo kill you, so they pick it against you on stage.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. Like, let's give this guy his main. Like, he used to be a one trick, and let's give him the best matchup for it. I'm sure this will go well for us. I don't know if that's worse or the.
To be fair, the 1v1 didn't really matter at all for like Quid, right? Yeah.
How about C9 Game 5 of Fearless giving Pantheon for the
stat
of
it was 100% banned. It had been banned 60 times in a row.
Yeah, the one time we're not going to ban Pantheon.
Well, the whole blue side draft was crazy to me. Like, I understand the thought process of this Vladimir and Gwen matchup is supposed to be good, right? So like, okay, let's just ignore that. And the thought process of Pantheon is supposed to be a good trade with Trundle. All right, even if we're just going to ignore that too, I'm still like, why did we give Quid Yone instead of just banning out, like, they banned Annie instead of Yone?
For the clip, we had to get
it. Was a good clip.
It was
a really good clip. But like, that to me was so insane. Is just like, as you went further and further, I was like, it just literally looked like they got blind pick blue side, like 1, 2, 3, right? Gwen, Yone, and Pantheon was crazy. And yeah, I don't know.
Then, you know, the last pick TF was truly like the dagger through the heart for all the watchers. It was just like, what was it? MSI flashbacks where people got mind controlled into thinking this champion was good. And it was kind of the same thing we heard back then. I actually talked to Anero about it yesterday. We did like a sponsored stream thing together where people were asking about the draft, and like there was some logic to it. He said like Game 5 red side is really rough for draft, so basically it was like if they banned Pantheon, then they would just be giving Trundle for nothing.
Yes, you want to trade.
I guess I should have asked like what you could ban both, but maybe they didn't want to do that. And then I think Quid in the post game said like they were expecting a Pantheon for Yone trade, and then they just got both.
Yeah,
which was kind of wild. So, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes in Fearless, I think things can just go wrong because there's so many things you're trying to juggle at once.
Did you ask him about the Yone? Because that's the one that I was really curious about. Like Gwen got nerfed. Some people don't think it's as strong, and Vladimir is a good matchup. Like that one, I could understand. Pantheon for a Trundle trade, I think Pantheon's a lot better, but like I can still understand. Yeah. The Yone was the one that I just didn't get because I just don't understand how. Because not only is Yone just like Quid's probably best champ, but it also is just a terrible matchup for TF. TF has no lane pressure. He's getting pushed in against a melee champion as a range champ. So it's like, when is TF supposed to get out on the map? When every time this guy has Q3 ready, you're shaking in your boots and you're playing like 2 screens away behind your range minions, right? Like he's the one that was looking scared in the matchup. So that was the one that I didn't understand the most. Maybe there is some logic that I'm missing there, but to me, it's like if you have Quid on Annie where he has way less agency, I just think that you have a way better chance to win that game.
Yeah, it was something. I guess he said that they were just. I'm not sure why Azir was permanent the entire series because that seems like something that like I think Quid is a fine Azir, but I think it's like Loki's best champion as well. So that probably didn't need to be banned. And then I think he said that they weren't comfortable with Annie, like they didn't want it, so they figured they just ban it. But yeah, I guess I should ask more about the Yone because that was definitely the head scratcher because that champion's just banned against C9 a lot. It's like one of their best, and then they had the opportunity to take it, and they opted not to. So, I don't know. Pretty sad as a C9 fan for sure, but
yeah,
that does happen.
I felt so bad for Blabber because he had to do the loser's interview after he just got caught as well, and. Yeah, he has been getting piled on already.
Yeah.
As far as some of these like crucial timings in important games for them. So man, props to him for being able to still do the losers interview and go up there. But
losers interviews suck.
Yeah,
I would not want to.
And
do that
especially because he knew, and he was even talking about it. He was like, yeah, I got caught, and it's like the moment where he had just walked up and. Into that line brush by mid lane, and it was a spot where when you're going back, like when you're in review, you're like, oh yeah, we know they have Pantheon ult, and we know this and this and this, and just cleared this ward, and it's like, oh man, those are the types of ones that just they sting because like you just messed up and. So yeah, I mean,
dude, that's the hard thing about playing against Pantheon too, like or any global ult, because no other champion can catch you like that, right? And because he's permabanned, like obviously he should know that, but it can be hard when
it's hard to be nowhere on the map that he can ult.
Yeah, exactly. So unlucky.
Yeah, I mean it does feel really really bad for Cloud9. Obviously not even just from the fan perspective, but this is now. Back-to-back years that they haven't made Worlds, which had never happened before for Cloud9. And it does kind of continue the like Cloud9 fall off in summer, kind of narrative that has been happening, or chokers or whatever you want to call it. So, I mean, it's tough because at the end of the day, this roster for most of the year was very, very strong, right? And clearly was the only team for almost the entire year that could go back and forth with FlyQuest. I still remember this stat that we ran at one point where it was like Cloud9 versus FlyQuest was at that point, I want to say it was 8-5, and then FlyQuest versus everyone else was 22-1. And I think it was like split 2 plus up to wherever we were in split 3 at that point that stat line was from. So they're like the only team that could really compete with FlyQuest. And then they have this big fall off, and it's kind of like, what's your takeaway? Is your takeaway that the roster was bad? Is your takeaway that they choked? Is your takeaway that we should try again? But because
shouldn't have picked Shopify.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a meme.
I know a lot of people talk about the timeline there too.
Yeah.
But it's tough because I can't imagine they don't make changes now because it's back-to-back years that Cloud9 missed Worlds, right? And Cloud9 is like always a perennial contender. And to not even be in LTA playoffs, to not even make top 3 after being, a clear top 2 team, like the entire split in split 2 and almost the entire split in this final split, I guess, until we want to call it the conference playoffs or whatever, was pretty shocking, and obviously is going to be a huge disappointment for them.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because, like you said, they were doing so well this year and looking so strong, and then they get upset by Shopify, and then they have to go up in the lower bracket versus 100 Thieves, which are actually good again now.
Yeah.
So that's where like two stories cross, where it's like, oh man, yeah, Cloud9 did kind of fumble, and like they're definitely fumbling and kind of struggling down in the lower bracket, but they're also crossing over with the rising story of 100 Thieves on the other side, which to your stat, the updated stat now has 100 Thieves as being, taking game off them in finals and looking very much like they could have taken another game off of them in finals, to be like another team that could compete with up there with FlyQuest. And so, yeah, they just get knocked out by like full power 100 Thieves powering up as well. And yeah, I mean, it is rough, but then like you're saying, you can't if those are the results, then things do usually end up something changes.
I mean, Liquid and C9, I think, are both going to make changes.
Oh,
I think almost,
Liquid for sure.
Liquid seems like they're in shambles for sure. The team just felt like a shell of themselves.
Yeah.
With C9, I mean,
yeah, I think they're.
I don't have any inside info for it, but from everything I've seen, like they don't strike me as a dysfunctional team. Like the players get along well, and like when I talked to them about, like the aftermath of stuff, they said what was weird for them is like they just won almost every scrim. They had like 80+% win rate in scrims against everybody, but it just didn't translate to on stage. And especially like it seemed like they were pretty open about kind of the issues, since when I would watch this team on stage, like my blood pressure skyrocketed anytime Otacon was attacked, because it's like, I don't know what it is about Otacon. A lot of teams troll, but I think C9 probably trolls it the hardest, with just like, when you're fighting Dragon or Baron, you push the waves near it, you get vision control, you fight them on the way to the objective. But something about Otacon's just like, all right, guys, Otacon's up, we're right in front of it. Hey, they're not attacking it. We should probably start hitting it. And then it's like, hey, their jungler's coming, and we're going to lose the fight afterwards. What do you want to do? Let's flip it. And then they just flip it, and then all die. And
I know it's stressful, but I think that Dignitas or Disguise might have the crown.
I was going to say,
might have the crown.
I have a couple
Not
of
to take
disguised
anything
ones.
away.
I have a couple of disguised ones in my brain that were crazy.
Yeah, actually, they probably got the MVP Otacon throw for sure. Yeah. That one was quite something.
But I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's like, it's not to me about like, oh, they're dysfunctional or they couldn't have done well, but they didn't, and it's 2 years in a row of not making Worlds. To me, it's like 4C9 standards. That's a failure. That's kind of just the result, right? And I'm not trying to put that on any one player or like demand changes or anything like that. I'm just saying the reality of the sport is that usually teams do not stay together, right?
Yeah.
There is a reason that it's like rosters are changing almost every single year, and I feel like this is even happening way more than it used to in the past. FlyQuest is the longest standing tier 1 roster, and I think by quite a bit actually now as well, because it's like teams just do not stay together. If it doesn't work, they're changing something, right? And so it's interesting to me because I remember talking to Castle. I was interviewing him prior to the DSG C9 series, and he was kind of just saying that he thinks that like C9 just get really nervous. And that if one thing goes wrong for them, like he thought they were going to win, right? And obviously they didn't win. C9 won that series, but it was a 5-game series. It was very close, way closer than expected. And I remember when I was talking to FBI prior to when they played C9, he was basically saying he felt like the way that C9 plays like in scrims is the exact same that they play on stage. And he said that he thinks that they kind of just play too like scared basically on stage, like that they're trying to do like obviously always practice the same, and I guess the idea is that they're like not playing very loose on scrims, and then on stage they're trying to like play like that, but they're like even more buttoned up. Like I don't know. At least that's I'm not trying to like put words in his mouth, but that was kind of like what I was inferring from the conversation. Because obviously the general idea is that in scrims people play way more loose, and then on stage you kind of button up. But that like Cloud9 is already buttoned up in scrims, so that they just get even more like oh god, you know, kind of like don't want to make the big play type thing. At least that was kind of what I took from the conversation. So it's interesting to hear people's opinions on the teams, and this was stuff that people were saying prior to when they played. So obviously it wasn't like a retrospect thing.
Well, I think they probably have the biggest fan base nowadays, and so there is definitely a lot of pressure on this organization because it's such a popular organization. So yeah, I can definitely see multiple angles there for possibilities for affecting stage games for Cloud9.
Yeah, I mean, I think for roster changes or not, it is true. People change a lot. And I guess my perspective is I'm definitely less of a revolving door kind of guy than I think, general fan sentiment would be, because I think there is a lot of value in sticking together with people and like being able to
building with it.
Yeah, build on what you've made before. Because sometimes it's like you could be very close to being a good team, but maybe just like something's missing. But then, you could have a moment where it just clicks and you level up together as a team. And for me, that was always like the really fun part of competing. It's like when you could learn as a team and grow together. But at the same time, the counter argument would be like, look at 100 Thieves. Sometimes a roster change is what you need for a team to do well. So I think it just totally depends on the environment and the players. It's like, I think that if players don't trust each other or they don't believe in each other, then like you have to make a change, because you're not just gonna like win with players that don't think their teammates are good. I don't know if that's the case. I don't think it's the case with C9, but I can see that's probably why teams change so frequently.
It could be a change that doesn't actually have to be a personnel change, as long as it's a very big change in like how you're operating in some way that makes people feel like it's going to be different this time, or there's some big new chapter. I feel like there does have to be something big. Maybe it's like completely, changing their, schedule or approach to practice or
systems.
So yeah, it's systems. If it's something big like that, it just makes you feel better, because I know that the feeling of working really hard for something and then completely losing out, when you're so close to doing it. And so when something like that happens and you can see like how devastated they are and how like disappointed they are, it really does help to have someone to lead and someone to say, all right, this is going to be different next time. This and this and this are the things that are going to change. And it's something to rally behind, So even if it's not like a complete roster change, sometimes roster changes are that. But sometimes it can be someone else who's a big leader and says, this is, these are the things that we're going to do different. That's going to change our story. And then you get like super motivated.
I don't know if you guys watch Pros, but they were talking about Cloud9 and like, Bwipo was kind of giving his take on maybe why the fall off happened or whatever. And he was saying on Pros basically that he feels like it's really important to kind of like basically find joy and like have like a fun environment and whatnot in the team. And I thought his take was kind of interesting. It wasn't something that really resonated with me personally, but he was basically saying how like with Cloud9, it's like, there's these like obligatory workouts and all these things that are kind of like part of the system that like all the players go and they work out together and do all these things together. And he was saying like for him, he didn't think that would actually be like, he wouldn't enjoy that, and that would then feel like, oh, if it's not working, it's like, oh, I'm working so much harder than ever and I'm doing all these other things, and it's like, and it's not working, kind of like, what's the point? And so I thought it was interesting. He was basically just saying he just felt like that is not like a one size fits all kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it's obviously worked well for Cloud9 over the years for a long time. But I just thought that was kind of an interesting take. Because yeah, not everyone is going to want to do the workouts and do the things and whatever. But obviously the idea is that these are, even if you don't feel like doing it, it's things that are good for you and going to help your performance and stuff. So I can see kind of like both sides of it. But I guess his take was that it was like, that's not an environment that he would enjoy. He wouldn't enjoy doing that. So that is maybe kind of like contributing if the players like aren't feeling like they're having fun or whatever.
I mean, I'm a super big proponent of benefits of fitness. I guess if you're super strict about the timing and stuff, I would say the benefits are just so clear, even for cognitive tests just to have some sort of fitness be regular for gamers. I'm like, that really does. That's a Cloud9 system where I'm like, yep, that really makes sense to me. You know, maybe there's leeway as far as, oh, if you're being like, you know, military schedule or something, then it could be detrimental in other ways, like if he's not getting enough sleep or something like that, or you know, maybe there's some leeway with schedules or something that would make it more amenable to him. But yeah, I think the general idea of, and it's not even like intense fitness that they do, right? It's like you can even do a little bit of cardio.
I gotta say, one day, Jack invited me to come over to the Santa house to do like a morning workout thing with him, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll just come hang out with the team. And like, I don't know if I can agree with
it was like suit up
intense thing. No, it was like they told me afterwards, like, oh yeah, that was like the hardest workout we've had in months, and I was like dying. You know, I don't know, that was rough.
Okay, so well, you have actual insight then. Did they say you have to do these exercises and these things?
I mean, they have a fitness instructor guy there, like who leads them through it, but I don't know if it's necessarily like you have to do it. I think it's just kind of like a recommendation, but if you have your own thing you want to do, I think you do that instead. But yeah, I don't know. That one was rough. Like, that one was really rough. So
okay,
I'm not saying it's not beneficial, but his point I think was just that there's a lot of gamers that aren't into fitness and don't care and don't want to do it, right? Yeah. And it's like, you know, he was like, oh, that's like why JoJo didn't work there. He didn't want to be part of the schedules and blah blah blah. I don't know if that's true, but it's, you know, that's just like the take. So I just thought it was interesting as a take, right? That some people might see it, even if it isn't that extreme, people might see it as like, oh, we're just playing video games, bro. Like, why do I have to wake up and work out? I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you clearly don't agree with it, and you don't have to agree with it. I'm just presenting the opinion that was given, which I thought was interesting because I can see a lot of gamers. Like when I think about a lot of the pro gamers that I played with and people that I lived with and like on the StarCraft teams and so on and so forth. Some of them are really into fitness, and some of them are really into it, and probably almost everyone, like you're saying, can get really great benefits from it. But if you do not want to do it and that is making you unhappy, then that can affect the environment as well, right? That's I can see the perspective.
That's why I started thinking about you know, the leeway of, you know, schedules or whatever, maybe come up with somebody for you to do it. Versus like, oh, it turns out their fitness coach that Meteos had on that day was actually David Goggins was there.
It might as well have been.
And they're like waking up at like...
They're all puking.
They're waking up at 4 a.m., running 20 miles. Yeah. Type of
team bonding.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting because like I get it. You know, it's hard to argue against working out. It's just like, hey, dude, like I'm not down for like trying to be healthy. Like I just want to... I want to not do that. But I mean, you could point to, I know that a lot of Korean teams, like I don't think a lot of them work out. And I know that when I talked to like someone from Gen G, and he mentioned how like their players just eat McDonald's all the time. Like they don't particularly care about eating healthy. And so, you know, it's like, okay, well, the best team in the world isn't doing all this stuff. Not saying like, yeah, everyone should just be eating fast food all the time because like that's probably objectively bad for you,
especially long term. I think that's where it's like that's gonna hurt the most.
But at the same time, it's like if you like, I think Azael's point's really good where you're saying like, you know, if you're forcing someone to try to live this like healthier lifestyle, but they're just miserable doing it, then it's like maybe that's not that great either. So
I mean, I don't know. It is a good point too, because if your goals are short term, you know, like there's a lot of players on the best Chinese and Korean teams that smoke cigarettes too, and are like taking a bunch of, you know, caffeine and you know, nicotine and stuff too. And like, all right, well, yeah, if it is short term, like lots of stimulants and stuff.
I know this is getting.
I don't know why we went off on all this.
Well, it's just interesting, right? It's an interesting topic. This is totally out of left field, but I remember in back at like all these MLGs and stuff, being so surprised when I found out like some people were taking like Adderall or caffeine pills and stuff like that to compete. And I thought when people told me, like I was competing and like, oh yeah, like that guy played well because he was on Adderall, and that guy I was like, oh ha ha ha, and they're like, no, seriously, like, he got a prescription, that's why he's extra good. I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, so I mean, it definitely exists. I have no idea if that stuff is what is limited and what is not, and what is not allowed in league, to be honest. But definitely there are people who are trying to get any advantage they can through caffeine pills or whatever else. So obviously not necessarily healthy. Well, definitely not healthy long term.
In a lot of those cases.
In a lot of the cases, but yeah, no, it's an interesting conversation. We're gonna take a quick break though, and then we'll be right back after these messages.
Ready, set, go!
I'm at 47%.
Oh, I'm on 63%.
Man, I'm at 50%. Boom! 80%. Winner! The Kia EV9 can go from 10% charge to 80% charge in just 24 minutes with DC fast charging.
Welcome back to the dive, driven by Kia. Shall we talk patch before we get into the LTA playoffs?
Sure.
Yep.
I took a bullet right to the chest. Volibear got nerfed finally. I knew it was going to happen eventually because more and more people started playing the champion. And then we got, all these challengers started playing in and making YouTube videos. And I'm like, my time is over, I guess.
Yeah.
He's on the chopping block. Honestly, this nerf, though, to me, doesn't look bad at all. I think it's honestly a completely fine nerf. And it is to AP attack speed scaling for the passive for Volibear. And AP is, in a lot of cases, his best builds. There's a lot of games where I go Trinity Force or AD builds for Volibear anyway. So I'm actually completely fine with it. As much as a lot of times, people's main champs get nerfed and they get super mad. I'm not mad about it at all. Maybe
I'm not mad.
Maybe other people will play it less.
Totally fine about it. It was a good and reasonable change.
It's all good. Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest hiccups to playing jungle Volibear is all the top Volibear players anyways. So maybe
stealing your champ.
Maybe it hurts them. Nah, but I started playing a lot of Rek'Sai recently, and that one's definitely been very fun. And I think she actually is pretty good again. She's definitely not I don't think she's better than she's not better than Volibear or anything.
Again.
Yeah. But I do think I've definitely been having fun with that one. So maybe that helps with being able to take a Volibear hit. Probably more importantly though with this patch are some of the
Rek'Sai's just your side chick. Volibear's still he's still bae.
Yeah. Probably more importantly with this patch though, there's a decent amount of the pro facing changes. Azir and Yanara mainly for me, but also the burst champs with Annie and Aurora. So I think that's pretty sizable and good patch this time around. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that they also clipped Kiana because Kiana has started to get some little bit of play in pro, but I have just thought ever since we saw those changes. This is one of the champs that definitely could just explode in solo queue.
I've been the champion every game.
Yeah, so do I. It's my perma ban. Has been for a couple of weeks now, and she's a flex pick that is very good in both flexible jungle and mid lane. Considering that you can use the flex to get a good matchup for mid lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody knows how to play her, way too good right now. So it makes sense. These pro bans for mid, I think, are going to be pretty interesting to me because the Annie one seems like it could actually be pretty big. They're nerfing her W base damage at later ranks, and then also the magic pen early on Tibbers. And to me, it's going to cut down her burst quite a bit, but also her wave clear, which, I think Annie's wave clear is already pretty bad. So hurting that even more, I don't know. I don't think most pros are excited to play Annie. They probably just play her because it's she's strong. But now it's just going to feel even worse to play. So maybe her pride will come down, but I'm not sure. With Fearless, I feel like balance is a lot more kind of up in the air because there's so many champs you have to play. So even if something isn't as good as it once was, it's still, could be better than the other options. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to see.
Something that I was really interested about with this patch is the Sunfire and bombing changes. Because Sunfire has just been trashed for a long time, right? And people are not building it in top lane at all. People are not really building it in jungle pretty much ever. I can't remember last time I saw Sunfire in pro play as on a tank jungler, right? Like it's just like a dead item.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So Bombies, the percent amp on monsters is going from 50 to 100%. So I was kind of wondering, like, hey, is this actually going to bring some other tank options into the jungle at all? Or will it, at the very least, like push out some of these, you know, kind of like Leandry's first tank junglers and make them do Sunfire? It's just kind of interesting because wave clear is obviously at a premium in top lane as well. And you don't see certain tanks because their wave clear is so bad, and it's kind of like hard to actually be able to go towards this. I think it's one of the things that has kept Shen out of pro, even though I think Shen had been quite strong for a while, is just like the lack of wave clear. And people, yeah, you can rush Titanic, but then if you rush Titanic, then you're pretty squishy and the components aren't that good for Shen. And there's a number of tanks that I think kind of have those struggles. To me, it's always why it's like, well, what are the tanks we see? It's the ones with like all abilities being wave clear, like Sion and Ornn and Cassante and stuff, right? Like have AoE wave clear like right off the bat. So potentially could help a little bit with that. The amp on minions and monsters when you complete Sunfire is obviously not going up that much at 50 to 60, and then Bomby is not getting buffed on minions, so maybe it's not really going to push the lever at all.
I would be
but
really surprised if these changes changed anything, because like you mentioned, I think the only thing we might see is like some tank junglers just picking up a random Bammies and then sitting on it, because a lot of the time, I haven't mathed it out, but it just feels like if you go Heartsteel, it's just a way better first item if you want something like a little bit more aggressive. And with the jungle monster's health scaling on the like true damage, like I don't know how it compares exactly to Bammies, but I don't think it's going to be significantly different. And
what about for like a Mumu, for example, who got buffed? Obviously, right now people would do like Leandry's first and stuff like that. Do you think this could push it enough that it's like, because I don't know what the math is going to be on Bombies versus Faded Ashes, but to me that's the comparison, right? Faded Ashes obviously clears up your speed, your clear speed a lot. So if Bombies is like comparable, then maybe it's reasonable to just like, hey, I'm just going to get a Sunfire first and be kind of tanky instead of rushing Leandry's because my clear is garbage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Mumu could be a good case for it. Like I know Zach was also one of the champs that like, I think there was like some Korean challenger one trick Zach who would go like Bammies into Proto Belt, and so maybe we'll see more stuff like that, like some tank junglers. But I don't know, in pro, like the tank junglers you see are, you know, Sejuani, Skarner.
Well, the one I was
kind of a bruiser, but
the one I was gonna say that I already a lot of times had the opinion that full tank Maokai is better now than AP Maokai, unless it's a draft where they specifically got it and it's gonna be the only AP.
Yeah.
Because they nerfed AP Maokai so many times. So I actually thought with this change, I'd be like, oh, okay. I feel like most of the Maokais should just go regular tank Maokai. Was kind of, I guess, the first one that popped into my head. So maybe that, but yeah, it's probably not a lot. I was gonna say though, what did you think of the Zach? Because we did get a Zach. We got a contract Zach, and he did go for the Proto Belt at the beginning of the game. I was like, well, for solo queue build, you know, Proto Belt, blah, but I expect him to go full tank, and then he went Proto Belt.
Yeah, it was cool to see Zach. When they locked that in, that's really surprised me, because to me it felt like it was a situation where you really wanted like a heavy AD champion on your team, because they already had a team that was like, you know, countered by Merc Treads. I think every single person on 100 Thieves was going to buy Merc Treads that game already, and then you lock in Zach. It's also against Lee Sin, which is like, you know, he's not a crazy early game bully, but you're never going to be able to fight him. Yeah. So I didn't love the situation for Zach. It was cool to see him, and like he had some decent looking plays, but I don't know. It didn't seem like a great situation for Zach, and I don't think he's particularly strong right now, especially in jungle. So it went kind of as expected. He just, I don't know. He just doesn't clear fast enough, and he can't duel or like invade properly. So he's similar to Nunu, I guess, in that sense, where very, very good ganks in solo queue, because, you know, he can kind of go through the immediate vision people will put down in River, and it feels unfair to get camped by him. But in pro play, that's not really as relevant. Usually it's a lot more about like having good tempo and be able to do objective fights and fight the other jungler, and Zach's just terrible at all those. So yeah, unfortunately did not work out.
Yep. There are a lot of other changes. I mean, Talia, I feel like was already kind of falling off a bit. Like, had not been the kind of like S tier that was like a patch or two ago where people were always going to pick it if it's up. Like Ori and stuff seems to have, and it's here, I think, kind of seemed to have passed her. But she's getting some nerfs. The like mana costs are getting better, but I don't know how much of a difference that is going to make versus just kind of like some of the damage going down. I'm assuming that she would get even less popular as a result. That's in there. Silas, had gotten like a little bit of play as a flex. Got some monster damage nerfed as he was getting pretty strong. So we've seen a number of different pro champions kind of getting tapped. I thought that it was interesting to see Cassio getting a buff. Cassio got some more base mana and also a little bit more damage on Twin Fangs, which could be pretty relevant. And Hui also getting a little bit of a buff. So they're kind of like shifting things around a little bit. And it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of like hit that correct spot where it's more up to like players' preference and strength on the champion versus just playing the absolute S tiers.
I personally like playing against Cassio more than I like playing against Aurora and like Annie Burst. So I was pretty happy with it with the direction.
Cassio is scary. I don't know. Like right now, I guess this patch is live, but before the buffs, whenever I play against Cassio, I feel pretty safe because I'm like, yeah, he's gonna run out of mana before she can kill you, especially before the first base. But I don't know, a little bit more mana, a little bit more all-in damage, and maybe that's not the case. So
Couple more Twin Fangs.
Yeah, that seems scary. So I could see Cassio maybe being viable. The other one that stuck out to me is the Jace buffs. Like he's getting a ton. It was like
20 on rank 1 Shock Blast.
20 on rank 1 Shock Blast, which keep in mind is getting amplified when you shoot it through the gate. So that's a lot of damage. I don't know.
He's for sure getting played.
Yeah.
So many top laners just love playing this champ.
Yeah, and he's extremely strong when his numbers are good enough. And that's some good numbers he's getting. So I think
20 at level 1 is good.
Yeah, I think Jace, Cassio, and maybe Ashe. I'm not totally sure. She's getting quite a bit of 80 per level. So yeah, I think maybe I wouldn't be surprised if they start showing up.
Yeah. But as far as like the general direction, buffing some of the like longer range ones like the, Vel'Koz as well, as you mentioned the Hui and stuff, I'm kind of down with it because like when I get hit with an Aurora combo and they're nerfing the passive damage, which I'm like perfect because that's not really interactive at all. It just like happens when electrocute damage happens on me also.
Yeah.
And I go, oh crap. I don't know. I think this patch will feel better for a lot of these kind of angles.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, we also have LTA Playoffs that is going to be kicking off this Saturday. So no more Super Weeks for the next little while. We're back on Saturdays and Sundays only. We are now entering into the cross-conference phase. This is LTA Playoffs. This is North versus South. We have our top 3 teams, which obviously have already been determined, as well as their top 3 teams. So if you have missed any of the games, it is going to be FlyQuest, obviously, Shopify, and 100 Thieves. And then their teams are going to be Pain, Red Canids, and VKS. So those are the 3. This week we'll start with 2 versus 3 and 2 versus 3. Like kind of like the second seed versus third seed from ours, and then second seed versus their seed, third seed from theirs. So Saturday, the first matchup is going to be 100 Thieves versus Pain to kick things off.
And I am glad that FBI has started playing better a lot recently. I feel like the recent series from FBI have been so much better. Earlier in the year, I would be like super duper worried about our bottom lane because going versus Pain, that's always where I'm looking first is Jitan. That guy is, I feel like, always the guy to watch on this team. He makes so many exciting and aggressive plays. And if it was FBI of like beginning of playoffs or elimination phase or like then, I would be very, very worried. But I just feel like, he started playing so much better. Yeah, he is kind of like crutching on these stacking champions. I don't know if it's going to be some champion, if there will be champion pool issues. He's also had good, games on other champions as well, though. And I think he's just like playing confidently and playing better now. So I still feel as confident in all of our teams. It's just that but bottom lane is definitely my focus for for this matchup as like the area that I would be worried about for us.
Yeah, I have not watched that much LTA South personally, so I don't truly know their strength as a team, but surely the North will win, right?
Surely.
I mean, I still have more prep to do. I've watched a couple of the series of these teams, so it was interesting. You know, I do feel like I was pretty surprised that Furia didn't qualify. We'll say that because I actually thought Furia played quite well at MSI. You know, they almost beat G2 in a best of 5. And talking to a lot of the North teams, that was the South team that they were really looking out for from having like practice against them. That was the team that people were most nervous against.
They went out 0-3-0-3.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of the South results were actually pretty surprising. Like from Split 2 to Split 3, Furia not even getting top 3 was pretty surprising. But also when you think back to Split 1, Isurus being the strongest team and then going into Split 2 during their like, it was like a multi-phase thing, but I can't remember which phase it was during. But they finished literally 8th out of 8 after being first coming into the second one. I think overall, once they went into playoffs, they ended up getting like 5th, 6th or something like that. But still, like some very surprising results, and the teams are kind of up and down. Pain does have triple Korean imports. It's Wiser, Karioka, Roamer, Chitan,
How do they have
and
3?
Curie. Well, I assume that it's a TL kind of thing where probably they have residency, would be my assumption. So probably only 2 of them count as an import. I was watching the Pain series against Red, and they were kind of getting blown out. So maybe it's not the like most fair way to judge them because they were kind of getting absolutely clapped. But like Wiser got destroyed in the top lane by FNB, probably harder than I've seen anyone get destroyed in pro play ever. I don't know if you saw this game, Kobe, but it was 3 solo kills in, I want to say, under 3 minutes of laning. Like, actually crazy.
What was the matchup?
The FNB was playing Renekton and Wiser was playing Gwen, and he was just getting solo killed on repeat. It was actually crazy. Like, he'd go to lane, FNB would solo kill him. He like TP's back, FNB's like still in the bush and just pops out and solo kills him again.
God.
They like run back again, solo kills him, and then he runs back again a 4th time. And the 4th time he didn't get solo killed, but Doom, their jungler, was in the bush and ganks him and he dies again. And it's like 5 minutes, he's 0-4-0.
You think that's his team set after the 4th one? They go, well, at least I wasn't a solo kill.
But they got put in the ground. It was actually crazy. They got super blasted in that game. Kaze and Rebello on obviously that's on the Red Cannon side were impressing me. I haven't watched a ton of Pain yet, but like I did watch that series and then part of another series for them. But yeah, Chitan is still standing out. I do think that this team like wants to play really aggressive. I mean, to me, the like strengths of the Brazilian teams have kind of remained the same when I'm watching these series, and the weaknesses have kind of remained the same, where it feels like their objective setups are really poor. They tend to kind of like over chase and kind of like have these like bad moments that rarely will cut off at one bad moment. It kind of like cascades and becomes it snowballs into so much more. But the other side of that, I will say, is that like some of these players mechanically are very good and do have some really good individual moments. And when I was watching, a lot of their teams, it's like as a result, it's individual players and individual moments that were standing out to me much more than the team play and the macro play. And I do think there are some really strong players. Like I felt like FNB was going crazy on his Renekton, but also I thought his Rumble was like super good, just like objectively really good team fighting. Like his equalizers were perfect. He was like really in good spots. But yeah, I mean, Pain will be interesting. They are the 3rd seed, and I've gained a lot of confidence for 100 Thieves throughout playoffs because they made this really, really good run. And I feel like the style that a lot of the Brazilian teams play is the style that 100 Thieves wants to play, right? Which is like scrapping nonstop, showing up to objectives and team fighting. So I feel like that should give them an advantage in that it's like, they're getting to play their style. These teams are very unlikely to, like, I can't see Pain coming in and Weiser and Romer just like committing to side lanes and trying to play a macro game against you. Like, they're going to fight you, and that's what 100 Thieves wants.
Yeah, and Romer played on Team Liquid challengers for quite a while up here as well with Spawn. So I'm gonna get Spawn's thoughts on him as well as a player, but I'm just like, I'm pretty sure Quid is gonna have that handled as well. So that's why I was only kind of possibly worried about bottom lane.
Yeah, I think the matchup versus 100 Thieves should be, I would assume, pretty close, because it does feel like, I know before when the South teams would play against North teams, what they mentioned was like the macro and vision control is something that like the South teams aren't that great at. So I would expect, a really controlled team like FlyQuest or, Liquid when they're in form to be like a pretty bad matchup for South teams, just because like it's really hard. Like if you just want to scrap and hands check your opponents, but they've got like way better vision than you, and they're just like not walking into you and fighting, that could be pretty hard. But a team like 100 Thieves, I think they're a lot more willing to fight. And I think 100 Thieves is really good at fighting right now. Like one thing that impressed me a lot with 100 Thieves and FlyQuest compared to like C9 and Shopify this past weekend was their ability to like flank in team fights. I think was really, really good. Pretty much always having like one or two people sit off on the side, and alternatively, when you're playing against a team that's trying to flank you, like have people mark them, like not just get caught off guard. It's like, oh, there's their top laner right on our AD carry, GG.
Yeah.
So I think that's really big. So yeah, I mean, if it's just going to be an all-out brawl, I feel like the South players do have like pretty good mechanics and won't necessarily just get like bullied.
I do think 100 Thieves, especially their series versus Shopify, showed some improvements in even their Otacon starts and like the timings that they went for it, and they even like backed off one after they got a teleport, and then only took it when it was actually safe to take. And so I do feel like, Dhokla had mentioned this when he came in, but he was talking about, oh yeah, I'm going to bring some communication and shot calling, qualities as well to the team. I feel like that definitely has helped some. Plus, we had multiple interviews. We always asked all the 100 Thieves players about it afterwards, and they're talking about how their coaches get really pissed whenever they like mess up one of these, Otacon or objective setups or whatever. And so I am feeling like 90% confident, I think.
Yeah, I'm feeling really confident. I mean, Chiton is good for sure. Like, he's mechanically very good, but I also feel like his weaknesses are pretty pronounced, where like he goes so aggressive that sometimes he doesn't have like full information when he's doing it. Like some of these fights where he's just like flashing over a wall to get in the fight to join it faster, and it's like when your AD carry is doing that, it can make for some really flashy moments where he's going in, he's like getting a big kill or whatever, but it also can result in him getting killed in a lot of these games too. Like I think about game 3 when Payne was playing against Red. Like he was having a pretty strong Lucian game, and they were having this one fight by like enemy blue buff, and he was coming from mid lane, and he just comes and just like straight up insta flashes over the wall and like dashes him with a culling and gets the first kill, but then he just gets flashed on and killed, right? And so I do think that they definitely have those weaknesses. I will say Weiser and the rest of the series was a lot more solid. I know Romer, obviously, from the TL days has been quite solid too. So I don't think that they're going to be like a complete pushover or anything. But I have a lot more confidence in the 100 Thieves squad than I did. It wasn't who I expected. Like at the beginning of the year, or beginning of split, if you asked me who our top 3 teams were going to be, I was assuming it was going to be probably Fly, C9, TL, right? And so it is obviously a bit of a curveball that we have 100 Thieves and Shopify playing, but definitely feeling confident in the Pain series for sure. The second series that we'd be watching would be Shopify versus Red Candidates. Red Candidates I watched a bit more of, and obviously we have some meetings, I think, this week with the LTA Southcasters to help us learn more about the teams and do more prep. Obviously, still have the rest of the week to be watching a lot more. But I actually feel like they were pretty impressive to me. F&B was really standing out in the Pain series, like I said. I mean, he super clapped Weiser not only in the Redacton game, but I thought his Rumble was actually just like legit really, really good. I thought he was playing quite well. And Kaze and Rebello also were really impressing me. Rebello, I think he, for the most part, was just outplaying Chiton. I think he kind of looked a little bit more consistent than him and was playing pretty well with Frosty. And Doom and Frosty were doing a good job of actually just like moving around the map together and like kind of playing together as a jungle support duo. And Kaze just seems like he's a pretty exciting mid laner. He seemed like he was pretty good on a lot of the kind of like melee style champions and wants to play that kind of like aggressive style from the games that I had seen. So it's going to be interesting to see how they match up against Shopify. Shopify, I'm admittedly a lot more nervous about because I just feel like Shopify is always so up and down, right? Like you just don't know, and I'm worried about that like low roll Shopify day.
The team is supposed to make you nervous.
Yeah. Well, and they're accomplishing that.
Yeah.
So they are accomplishing that. Yeah.
I definitely agree on the red takes. I also think the story for red is cool because this split, they promoted 3 of their players from their academy team. It was all of Doom, Kaze, and Rebello.
Yeah.
And they like promoted them all together. And I'm always a pretty big fan of that because, you know, they won their academy team won first place. And then they're like, oh, great. You know, we're going to move you guys up to keep like support jungle synergy intact. And so then you do see stuff, or not support, not jungle support, but like jungle mid lane. Synergy and stuff intact. And then you see stuff like they very clearly, have worked together for a long time. I mean, those guys were playing there for a year for the academy team together. And, Doom and Rebello basically were brought up within the red system with through their full academy team. Kaze, of course, played in LLA for a little bit before that. But it's kind of cool whenever you get the promotion and then they have success together as well. They kind of get to keep it in the family. But Shopify. I'm also nervous. You know, they definitely have still some of the tendencies that I thought they had fixed, where they'll make a side lane play. And then they'll stick around for a little bit too long afterwards or make another play after it. And by that time, the other team has already been able to like reset from their previous position and then come in to counter the like second play or whatever that Shopify would be making. But I'm so confident that they're going to win. It's just that this series, I think, is going to be the closer of the 2 series, and this will be the exciting one.
And I like that it's best of 5 because it means that you can't just blame it on anything, right? There's like no excuses. It's not like I just got cheesed in a best of 1 or we got one unlucky draft or whatever. It's best of 5. You know, you have the full ability to actually play and prove yourself, and it's going to be really interesting because back in Split 1 when we played it, it was only best of 3s. So we did win every series and it was 8-1 overall. Like, you know, our teams dominated, which is great. But this is going to be, you know, real true test because it's all best of 5s, and I think that's going to make it really exciting. Excuse me. For Red. Oh, something went in my throat.
Getting choked up.
Exactly. Getting a little emotional. But yeah, it was interesting for Red because the first series I watched, they did so well.
Yeah.
And then I watched the finals after that, and they got absolutely blasted by. I always call them Vivo Keyed, but I guess it's Vivo.
It's Cade.
Yeah. So it's Vivo Cade. But like that was one of the most one-sided series, especially game 1-2 that I maybe have ever watched. So it was kind of interesting to see the other side of it. Game 1 was like 24-3 in kills. Game 2 was very similar. I think, 25-5. Like they got absolutely blasted, just like astronomically blasted. And so you kind of got to see like a lot of their strengths in the first series against Pain, and then against VOK, they were just getting absolutely ran over. And it was interesting to see kind of like two sides of it. Game 3 was the most competitive one. It was still a lot more one-sided, but it was a lot more back and forth. And I just felt like in that one, you could kind of see how when Red could not get a good start, they were really struggling to kind of like find purchase in the series. It feels like, to me, this team in the previous series I'd watched did a good job of like when a player has a lead, they knew what they wanted to do with that to like push the game forward, right? You know, they get a kill, the gank goes off, like whatever, they win their first team fight. Then they're like, okay, clearly this is what we do next. We go, you know, we're going to force at this objective, or I'm going to be able to like extend my advantage in this way. Like they're able to actually get things done in that way. And when they did not create those individual advantages, the team felt a lot more aimless to me. It kind of seemed like they're just saying, all right, you know, we're not gonna cross map that much. We're gonna just show up to the objective anyway, but we don't have vision, and we're weaker, and we're late, and then we just kind of die, right? And it felt like that was showing to me a lot more of the holes that I didn't see as much in that first series. So I do think that this is, you know, kind of like one of those teams where if you are, you know, playing well in lane and you're not getting behind on the Shopify side, that I think that, you know, Red is going to really struggle to play from behind. And I think Shopify hopefully can play well enough to get the early advantages to kind of like be stable.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Shopify also, like, they're one of the teams, well, like they've had a decent amount of practice of playing behind themselves on stage. And so when they get behind, they still are always fighting and looking for these comeback angles. So, you know, even if they do, then I feel like they should be able to like battle their way back in. But I think the mid lane matchup, you know, it could be exciting. You know, Kaze is playing a lot of like Silas and Yone and stuff as well. So we'll see, you know, how Mr. Palafox is feeling on the day, is looking on the day.
I would expect him to like those matchups. You know, I feel like he's a lot more comfortable in that kind of thing than some of the other mid lane matchups, like the more like standard mage scaling picks. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, Shopify, I feel like if there's one team that just, you know, will downgrade if they think they're better than their opponent, it would be Shopify. So I feel like if they go into it expecting like an easy series and a free win, like they might just get 3-0'd or
Tell
something.
them it's Genji.
Real quick. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think they've always done that, right? It's like these players, they have the ability to like rise up to the occasion, but also the ability to just like absolutely phone it in when they need to win. So I don't know. Little worried for him.
Kaze even has many Zed games here I'm looking at. Zed mid. So we might get some spicy, some extra spicy stuff there in mid lane.
A lot of their mid laners seem pretty down to play the melee stuff. Mireu, I believe is how you say the name, in the finals, had a crazy Akali game, like absolutely insane Akali game. To me, that was pretty nuts.
Yeah, Zed just seems even more far removed though, right? Because Zed jungle is more popular than Zed mid now.
Yeah, it is. Vivocade, of course, we'll talk about them more next week. Because they're not playing this first weekend. They're going to be playing FlyQuest the week after. So they are going to be playing that top team. But Trimby is a name I think a lot of people will know. He's playing now on Vivocade. So he's there. Mireu has been internationally. You might have heard of him. Bull and is their top laner. And I think it's Disamis is the jungler. The way
that one's the hard one to say.
That's the one that I'd always heard it said that way, but then the casters I were listening to were calling him Disamis, so I'm not really sure. And then Morteus or Morpheus, I'm not really sure about how you pronounce that one exactly either. Is their AD carry? So some names I think people will know. Definitely Mireu and Trimby I think are names that people have seen around. But it was definitely surprising, I think, that the Vivocade won, and they were super, super dominant in the finals. I do think they have kind of been set up not very well in the playoffs with how the format works, because you know it's great. Obviously, number one seed gets seeded in, so they're guaranteed top 3. They go to Worlds no matter what. But the downside is that they have to play our absolute best team, FlyQuest, and then the other matchup they will have, presumably they lose to FlyQuest. If they do, then they're going to have to play whoever is second best out of everyone else coming up through the brackets. So they're gonna have to play the 2 very hardest teams. So we'll see how they can perform. But obviously, you know, they did look really good in I wanted to say CBLOL, but in LTA South. So it should be fun. I'm excited for it. A little bit nervous, as I always am going.
That's good.
Yeah, exactly. It's
That gives you the reason to watch. You know, if you're not worried about losing at all, then you know you don't get the full range of excitement and of emotions. When
Are you saying we don't need to watch EU anymore? Any EU matches? I'm not that nervous anymore for them.
it's not giving you the full range of emotions.
Yeah, it still is. I'm completely lying, but had to get it in there. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. LTA Playoffs going to be kicking off, and then we only have a couple weeks. It's 2 weeks here in the Riot Games Arena, and then we will be going to Texas for the LTA Championship, and then after that, it's Worlds. So we are getting down to it. It is coming up very, very quickly.
How time flies.
Yeah,
You're having fun.
It does, and even when you're not.
Yeah, I guess just when you're old.
Time just flies. Time flies when you're old. Kobe and I, we'll leave Meteos out of this, but Kobe and I are definitely old. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm young, guys.
You've got a bright future ahead of you, son.
Yeah, exactly. We're excited to see what the future holds for you, Meteos.
Yeah, I can't wait to grow up.
Future Mythic plus world champion over here.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get in there. Well, either way, that'll wrap it up for us here on The Dive, driven by Kia. Remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode of The Dive. You can also check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The LTA Playoffs starts this Saturday, September 13th at 1 p.m. Pacific. 100 Thieves will be taking on Pain. Hopefully they'll win, and hopefully we'll see you there.